and on come the horses. It's pathetic.
24 mounted police charged onto the pitch at Stamford Bridge last night as rival fans confronted each other after the game. The horses formed a barrier across the ground in a largely successful attempt to keep the warring factions apart. 2 Millwall players say they were attacked by Chelsea supporters. As the crowds left the stadium, trouble spilled out onto surrounding streets, with police and fans involved in sporadic clashes.
There were hundreds of young men here, climbing up here, climbing up there, in the cellars there, bricks, you know, throwing the bricks at the police, and not once did the police do that. They just said, come down, get out of here.
The headlines in this morning's newspapers make sober reading for those who thought football hooliganism was a thing of the past. Lifelong Chelsea supporter Rae-scored saw the trouble from his cafe across the road from the ground.
I wouldn't be surprised to get a brick through the window at all. I was expecting that last night, really. You've got thousands and thousands of fans and 100 policemen to look after them in the street. And I think they did extremely well, yeah, because I think it could have got really nasty.
Afdin Mir was forced to lock customers inside his Indian restaurant as the police and fans clashed outside.
We had customers in here, they were worried. But they told us to shut the doors, everything, because we could hear the shouting of the fans. It just went crazy.
11 officers were injured. In all, 33 fans were arrested, and 19 of those will appear in court next month. The police admit they were expecting problems and are pleased that the trouble was largely contained.
What we had last night was very successful throughout the whole evening, and I must say that the deployment of the mounted branch primarily, certainly in my mind, was a fine piece of police work which definitively prevented a riot or serious disorder inside the soccer ground.
Management of the club declined to be interviewed today, but in a statement said they deplored what happened last night. Closed-circuit television videotapes will be examined to try and identify those involved, the culprits face being banned from the ground. The club is also threatening to reinstate perimeter fencing, which was removed because of the fans' previous good behaviour. The statement concludes, "We are saddened that a few spectators, and we stress a few, have tarnished Chelsea and football."
A sentiment shared by many of the Chelsea fans who were today buying tickets for Saturday's game against Tottenham.
People go there now that wouldn't have gone, 5-10 years ago. I mean, there's a lot more women, a lot more children, families going in there. It's just a shame that something like this had to happen.
Chelsea will now have to await the outcome of an inquiry by the Football Association.
James Cameron reporting, well, some of the fans who go to Stamford Bridge would probably be the first to admit we're no angels. But after the football violence of the 70s and 80s, it seemed that Chelsea and other clubs had put the worst of the troubles behind them. Now there are questions about hooliganism and crowd control. Here's Steve May.
Crowd violence is nothing new to Chelsea's Stamford Bridge ground. These scenes were filmed in 1988 during an end-of-season match with Middlesbrough. In the 1970s and 80s, crowd violence was not uncommon both inside and outside the ground. In addition, the actions of a group known as the Chelsea Headhunters, who went to games specifically to cause trouble, gave genuine Chelsea supporters a bad reputation. However, in recent years, the problems had declined.
This is the first serious trouble we've had at Chelsea for about 7 years, home or away. And I think that there were certain circumstances behind this game, the fact that it was Chelsea and Millwall, the fact that there is a history there. And I think that a game like this is going to attract people who don't ordinarily go to games. They're going to turn up at a game like this because there is a chance to have a go at their opposition numbers for what goes back a long time.
In 1985, Chelsea's chairman, Ken Bates, devised his own method of crowd control, an electric fence. It was never switched on, but it represented a clear message from the Chelsea chairman that something had to be done.
In the meantime, we wait with great interest to hear from politicians and civil servants, local and from Westminster, what they suggest we do about football hooliganism instead of being utterly negative.
Chelsea were one of the first clubs to introduce closed-circuit television cameras. A family enclosure was started and some matches were made all-ticket, though surprisingly, in view of the history of both sets of supporters, last night's replay was not all-ticket. The original game between the two sides 10 days ago at the New Den was.
Tickets were being sold for people to go into the ground right up until half-time. And it does seem to me that a match which is well known was going to cause violence, and has caused violence in previous years, and the police were fully expecting some sort of trouble this time. If they made it all tickets issued in advance, they'd at least would have known that the people who had been there would have been football fans and not hooligans.
The Football Association has already begun their investigation, though a return to a pre-Hillsborough situation where supporters were fenced in isn't envisaged.
When the fences came down, everybody was aware that there was a risk involved. I am not aware at the moment that there is a demand that the fences are put up, even after last night.
7 years ago, these scenes led to Chelsea being fined £75,000 for failing to control its fans. Disciplinary action over last night could involve a similar fine and/or parts of the ground being closed down. However, any punishment could be suspended. Last May, a pitch invasion at the New Den led to Millwall themselves being fined £100,000 and ordered to play 2 games behind closed doors. Both measures were suspended.
A warning from Chelsea. Any more trouble and we'll be fencing the fans in again. Phil Bales reports.
Violence like this prompted Chelsea chairman Ken Bates's memorable proposal that his own fans should be enclosed like animals behind an electric fence. But in the end, all the fences came down, and last night Chelsea fans dragged the name of London football even further into the mud. The level of violence appalled the genuine fans.
You know, we lost. I don't like that, and neither did they, but you don't resolve something by going on the pitch and trying to punch the lights out of opposing supporters. It's not on.
Millwall beat Chelsea 5-4 in a dramatic penalty shootout in an FA Cup replay. As the rival fans invaded, only a police charge headed them off.
Had they not come out and actually intercepted Chelsea supporters making directly for the Millwall end, I've no doubt at all we would have had very, very serious disorder.
The fans threw CS gas and bricks. 2 officers were taken to hospital. One was a woman PC who was hit by a chair. Chelsea supporters blamed it on long-standing hatred.
In fairness, if it had been the other way around and Chelsea would have won, I think that it could have very easily been the Millwall fans that kicked it off.
Violence by Chelsea fans, like this at Derby in 1983, has seen the club heavily punished, including a fine of £75,000 6 years ago. The club tonight condemned the behaviour of the fans as deplorable and warned that it could mean the return of fences to keep spectators off the pitch. The FA, however, doubted that sanctions would be that severe.
Overwhelmingly, football fans don't act in that way. I am not aware that anyone at the moment is advocating that the fences should go back up.
13 Chelsea fans and 6 who were supporting Millwall have been charged with public order offences. In Chelsea, this is Phil Bales for London Tonight.
More shame there for soccer. And we'll have a report on the forgotten part of the evening, the match, of course, in our sports desk later.